In pitch black we sit perched on the banks of a waterhole in Cape York. The moon and stars adorn the night sky. An eerie feeling of being watched is impossible to shake. The person to the left of me switches on their head torch and we scan the banks for lurking crocodiles. Witnessing crocodile slides on the riverbank earlier in the day hadn't done much to ease our anxieties. The eye shine of the spiders glisten like jewels in the grassy understory. A yell pierces the silence, making me jump in fright. Bat! They bellow. We all jump to our feet and race towards a net. My name is Danielle Outram and I'm a Conservation Partnerships Officer for Sunshine Coast Council. In September 2019, I was lucky enough to be chosen as a volunteer research assistant for the Australasian Bat Society's Blitz II expedition to Cape York to survey microbats and record their echolocation calls. I had always wanted to use my long service leave to contribute to scientific research, so when Dr. Les Hall, biologist and all-round bat legend, passed away earlier this year, I wanted to participate in my first bat research expedition in his honour. Julie Brokenbrow, bat researcher and specialist in acoustic monitoring, led the expedition with her encyclopedic knowledge of bat biology. Gary Featonby, head ranger of the Kutini-Payamu Iron Range National Park, was our camp manager and led us safely to some of the most remote places in the Cape York wilderness. There was nothing that this man couldn't fix, no route so dangerous he couldn't navigate. On the first day alone, we drove through bushfires actively burning, a crocodile-inhabited river where a cow's leg lay severed on the riverbank, and cyclone-ravaged rainforest where debris still rendered many tracks inaccessible. Finally, our team leaders, Luke Hogan and Narrowin Williams, who have spent much of their careers catching and surveying bats, together with Julie, helped us safely, accurately and efficiently capture, identify, process and record every night from dusk till dawn. Despite constantly being several hours from civilization, medical assistance, electricity, modern plumbing and phone reception, through the impeccable planning of our fearless leaders, we had a very comfortable camp. A communal kitchen and dining area kept us cool and well fed through the day. Tents were placed on higher ground, safe from crocodiles. I made the strategic move of being the furthest tent away from the river at all times. #Crocwus. But crocs weren't the only threat. Northern death adders and taipans were present in high numbers. In some places, paper wasp nests adorned every tree, whilst wild pigs were abundant and extra protective with piglets in tow. I stayed close to the group at all times, even during toilet breaks. I'm not sure how well my safety measures were received by the rest of the crew, but the good news is that I didn't get gored by a wild pig. On a more serious note, you may be wondering why microbats? What's all the fuss about? These tiny mammals that have been demonized for centuries are actually minuscule superheroes. Did you know if it weren't for microbats, we would be overrun with insects within a matter of weeks? So effective they are in controlling insects that orchard farmers are starting to install nest boxes on farms to boost the number of microbats as a form of biocontrol for insects so that they can minimize insecticide use. In fact, one of my Land for Wildlife landholders are doing exactly this on their macadamia farm with excellent results. For me, microbats present a huge opportunity to be used as bioindicators. A bioindicator is an organism used as an indicator of the quality of an ecosystem or pollution levels. Presence, absence, and changes in abundance or distribution of bioindicator species can tell us a vast array of information about the health of an ecosystem without the time and expense of measuring individual ecological features. Insectivorous bats are sensitive to the accumulation of pesticides and other toxins, so changes in their abundance may reflect changes in insect prey species. Changes in bat numbers may also reflect climate change impacts, deterioration of water quality, loss and fragmentation of forests, and disease. Because of this potential, researchers across the globe are calling for a global network for monitoring bat populations so their role as bioindicators can be used to its full potential. Whilst some microbat species are easily differentiated between one another, others look so similar that in order to identify them, we had to measure the most teeny tiniest of features. Imagine holding a tiny bat that only weighs 4 grams, its body smaller than your thumb, and having to measure the length of its forearm, a bone in the wing, or tibia, leg bone adjoining the foot, attached to a delicate wing membrane using precision measuring instruments called calipers. Now imagine picking up an illuminated hand lens and having to measure the distance between its canine teeth to 0.1 millimeters accuracy, or count the number of lobes of its minuscule incisor teeth, or even pulling back the foreskin to count the number of spines on the bat's penis. Yep, all these things are key diagnostic features of microbats. And I thought looking for the domatia and oil glands of a leaf were hard. This was a whole other level. At this point, it is important to note that the research was undertaken in accordance with a scientific permit, and all researchers were vaccinated professional biologists. If you find an injured bat in your home or around your property, you must never touch it. Call 1300-ANIMAL, that's 1300-264-625, so that a licensed, vaccinated carer can assist the animal safely. Some of the other skills I learnt were how to set up, check, and dismantle harp traps and mist nets. Harp traps are basically an extendable alloy frame with strands of fishing line strung up about an inch apart and a canvas bag underneath. The bats can't see the fishing line with their echolocation calls, and so they fly into the line and fall into the bag, where they wait quite safely until the trap is checked. Mist nets operate on a similar principle, where the net is so fine that again the bats can't echolocate their way around it. As soon as they fly into the net, they need to be removed so that they don't become too entangled or get too distressed. DNA samples in the form of wing punctures were taken for Scotorrhepin species, as the genus is still undergoing taxonomic review. These samples will feed into existing DNA work to help formally describe at least one, possibly more, new species. Weights were also taken for the bats using tiny scales. All instruments were kept together in a rather nifty little tackle box. Upon release, the echolocation calls of all microbats were recorded using Anabat walkabout bat detectors, a device which displays a sonogram to see otherwise inaudible echolocation calls. These recordings were a critical part of the research trip, as the Australasian Bat Society is wanting to establish a library of calls so that in future bats can be identified in the field just by their echolocation calls rather than by being caught and measured. Over the 3 weeks, we caught 21 different species of microbats and over 350 individuals. Whilst many were endemic to Cape York, a number of bats were species that also occur on the Sunshine Coast, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of my favourites. First up is the large-footed myotis, Myotis macropus. As the name suggests, this bat has really large feet in comparison to its body, not entirely unlike me. This is because these bats are fishing bats. They feed on small fish and insects they catch by raking their disproportionately long feet across the water surface. The large-footed myotis are commonly cave dwellers, but are also known to roost in tree hollows, under bridges, in clumps of pandanus, and in stormwater drains. As you may have guessed, these bats have great potential to be bioindicators for water quality. The golden-tipped bat, Phoniscus papuensis, was definitely the gold at the end of the rainbow. This incredibly rare bat was captured 4 times during the trip, a first even for Julie, a highly experienced bat researcher. The fur is dark brown and curly with bright golden tips to each hair. These bats specialise in the eating of spiders, orb-weaving spiders in particular. These bats are capable of hovering in confined spaces for a considerable amount of time, obviously allowing them to pluck large spiders from their webs. They were thought to be extinct until 1981, when one was trapped outside of Cairns, the first seen in 87 years. The hoary wattled bat, Chanalobus nigrogriseus, was a gentle and chilled out bat with dark grey and black fur with silvery frosted tips. These bats roost largely in hollows of eucalypts and are dependent on us protecting and retaining hollows on our properties. They occur in a range of habitats from dunes to floodplains to woodlands and dry vine thickets. They prefer moths and beetles but can eat a wide range of insects. They commonly forage along waterways but can also utilise dams and waterholes. In order to properly identify the eastern horseshoe bat, Rhinolophus megaphyllus, we needed to measure different parts of the nose, including the horseshoe and the cellar. Not an easy feat with a wriggly little bat. They roost in caves in complete darkness, so can be sensitive to light pollution. They occur in a wide range of habitat types and forage mainly on moths, but also eat beetles, bugs, wasps, weevils, and flies. Their flight is slow and fluttery and often low to the ground. We saw some other species of wildlife that I was delighted to be able to tick off my bucket list. The green python is brightly coloured and is almost incandescent in the dark of the night under the light of a head torch. The palm cockatoos often graced our presence whilst setting up traps in the evening, flying overhead with the eclectus parrots. The male palm cockatoo breaks off a stick or pod and drums against a dead tree, creating a noise which can be heard up to 100 metres away. The eastern tube-nosed bat is a medium-sized fruit bat that has tube-like nostrils and bright yellow spots splashed all over its wings and ears. It likes fleshy fruit from figs and lily-pillies, but will also eat the nectar from banksia flowers. Unlike the green python and the palm cockatoo, these bats occur on the Sunshine Coast. Australasian Bat Society is a non-for-profit organisation that promotes the conservation and study of bats in Australasia. Anyone with an interest in bats or conservation is welcome to join. Check out their website at www.ausbats.org.au for more information. My involvement has led me to learn a great number of new skills as well as make some fantastic new friends. A big thank you to my teammates who kindly provided photos and information for this presentation, especially Edward Bell, Kelly Matthews, Luke Hogan, Joanna Haddock, and Julie Brokenbrow. Thanks, guys.